Welcome to our webinar today from VertiGIS and Factal on transforming supply chain risk management with VertiGIS Studio. My name is Frank Kennedy. I'm the business unit leader for Studio for the Americas and also the VP of Sales for VertiGIS. Today is very topical and very current. Risk management, especially on supply chain, which with what's going on in the Middle East, especially in the Strait of Hormuz, is very important. And it may not affect all of our businesses because of oil and gas, but it does make up about 20% of the oil that's shipped and transported in the world. So we will talk about that a little bit today, but we're going to use some other examples like fire, like floods, some maritime incidents that happen as well, and how that can impact your supply chain. Oil and gas, for example, can impact pharmaceuticals, any of the byproducts, including food transportation, and other things. So obviously what's going on, supply chain in general, impacts all of us. And we're going to dive into that a little bit today with my other panelists. So joining me today, and they'll introduce themselves as they jump into the presentation, we have Brian Gass, and he's from our partner Factal. He's the Sales Development and Partner Manager. Vince Ruck, who I'm sure a number of you know, he's our Partner Manager for Latin America, and he does work overseas in Europe as well. And Paul Van Haren, who is our Solution Engineering Manager. He's actually going to demo how we do risk management around supply chain within Studio. So our agenda today, just did a little bit of an introduction, but you'll hear from Brian on Factal. So Factal is going to talk about how you do verified risk management, essentially breaking news and how that feeds into our system or other systems as well. Paul's going to do a live demo of supply chain risk management. So all of you that use Studio or looked at it or on GeoCortex and potentially moving to Studio, this is an entirely new world. Same product, but we're going to show how we do risk management for supply chain directly in Studio. And we're also going to have a summary from Vince Ruck around the value of an integrated solution. And if we have time, we have about 45 minutes, we're going to get to a Q&A. So at the top of the screen, you'll see there's a question box. You can ask questions throughout. I know everyone's on mute right now, so you can only listen in, but please ask your questions. So if you have something that we can answer at the end or as a follow-up, you can post it there. Also, on the right-hand side, you can expand. So if you want to look at video a little bit further or bigger on your screen, you can do that. Just a little bit about us. I won't spend too much time. We're actually bigger now, even bigger than our 600 employees and growing. We're a global organization, Esri Platinum Network Partner, so we're the second largest technology partner in the world. So you see that we have a lot of awards, specialties, and we're just a growing company. So lots of partnerships and lots of customers. I won't spend too much time on this, but as you can see, we have offices, our headquarters in the US in Richmond. We have a satellite office in Denver, in Canada, in Victoria, British Columbia, and our headquarters globally in London, UK, but we're everywhere. So we have customers throughout the globe. And just clients and use cases. So these may not be applicable to each of you, but every different vertical, and we're going to talk about supply chain manufacturing today, obviously related to risk management. But if you have any supply chain needs from public sector, utilities, telco, infrastructure, our application as it relates to GIS and risk management can be used across every vertical and every industry. So you can see some of the various use cases in each one of these industries. If there's something unique or different about your organization, please feel free to follow up with us afterward. We can speak to how we can be used in your particular area. And maybe it's not just around supply chain management, around risk. There could be other areas of risk management related to cyber or something else where you could use our tool. So I'll finish up here just on the collaboration model. You're going to hear from Brian about Factal, and Factal, again, breaking news, information or incident data that's intake, but it could be any number of partners, weather information, other feeds that you want to bring into our system, right? So Factal brings in decision-ready, risk-intelligent data. VertiGIS is the business application. So we integrate all the risk intelligence with geospatial data to support operational efficiency. You can act on that data. You can pin things and act on a map and make decisions in real time through our tool. And obviously we're a partner and we run on Esri. Esri acts as one of the databases or platforms to provide all the geospatial data that we need. And if you need to intake data from other areas, we can do that as well. But this trifecta of 3 different solutions together really gives you a platform that you can start doing your risk management and risk assessment around supply chain. And so with that said, what I'm going to do is turn it over to Brian. Thank everyone again. Appreciate all of you joining today. Stick around because there's some really good content that we're going to show and a demo of the application. And with that said, I'll turn it over to Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. It's a pleasure to be here today. So I'm just going to provide a brief introduction to Factal, a little bit of how we do what we do, and then dive into a demo. Just wanted to thank the VertiGIS team for hosting us today. It's a pleasure to be here, and we love working with you guys. So Factal was founded in 2018. It came out of breakingnews.com, which was sort of a household name in the risk intelligence space. Since we've started, we've brought on about half of the Fortune 500 companies, and that would be major airlines, retailers, financial institutions, and tech companies. They utilize us to geolocate and navigate the ever-changing risk intelligence space, all the open source intelligence that's coming out, to understand the threats to their business, supply chain, and continuity programs. We also serve over 300 NGOs now free with the Factal platform. So what I show you today is being served to NGOs working in humanitarian aid and disaster relief around the world. So how does Factal do what it does? We start with sourcing materials. So we're looking at open source intelligence from social media feeds to geophysical feeds like weather data, earthquake data, and also police scanners. We're going outbound on local and national news sources. And all of that, all those things that we're sourcing are being pulled into a backend platform that's using AI to help filter that and detect those signals coming in. Most importantly is that we're verifying that data with a team of highly experienced journalists that are focused on the regions that they cover, and they're working 24/7 in newsrooms in Seattle, New York, and London. Once they verify, geolocate, and corroborate that data, they're publishing it to the Factal platform in a really concise written format that's tagged both topically and then also tagged geographically, which allows us to plug our data into other platforms where folks want to see Factal alert data along with maybe localized data that they have about their facilities or operations or other types of intelligence that they would like to bring in. So Factal serves a number of use cases with our coverage between supply chain risk, travel risk management, business continuity, and corporate security. We're covering everything that goes bump out there. So natural disasters, severe weather, the human-led conflicts and crime and geopolitical events, and then all those disruptions that spring from those things, whether it's transportation, air, road, sea, or rail. We help dive into those things as they're happening in real time so you can jump ahead and react accordingly and quickly to help mitigate the risk to your organization and ultimately save resources. So now I'm going to share the Factal platform briefly to give you an idea of what our data looks like. Okay, so this is the Factal platform. It's a standalone SaaS product and it's also a mobile app. What we're really focused on is bringing in that risk intelligence so you can act quickly on events that are happening. So this is the all feed, which is essentially our homepage, and this is all of the reports that we're reporting on, and it's a constant stream of data. It's not necessarily the place where you would live on the platform, but it's a good way to understand our breadth of coverage and how we categorize incidents. So you always see our editorial team that's on staff. This is some of them right now on duty, and then the number of reports that they're pulling in. So that's that back-end platform that we're looking at. It's around several thousand to a couple thousand reports an hour. We just saw an incident published to the platform, and what you saw in real time was the editorial team publishing this incident in this clear AP style written format. This is human written and verified. Just had another incident come in, and then the source to that incident is also published here. It may not be the only source that we found, but it's going to be the most accurate, validated source to that incident. If you want to see where anything is located on the map, you can hit this bullseye here, and you can see where that incident is located. We also associate an impact zone to that incident called True Impact, which is utilizing AI and human verification to understand the scope of impact to the geographical area of an incident. If you want to follow a particular incident, you can follow it here. and you can quickly share it out to other teams, whether or not they have the Factal login. It doesn't matter, they can still see the incident. So the real power of Factal is filtering down this all feed to get things that are just important to your organization, to your supply chain. So once you plug in your locations to Factal, you can then get a feed of all of the incidents that are impacting the locations that you plug into the platform. So when you see anything in purple on the Factal platform, it's showing me an incident that is impacting a location that I have. So this is a good example of a travel disruption that may be impacting a nearby facility or traveler, and you can see the location of those incidents to the facility itself. So this is just one way that we filter our information on our platform and provide that to our partners as well, so all geographically. And we're doing that based on several different geographic tags, which allows you to filter down in a few different ways. We're always going to know with Factal whether or not it's the exact location or nearby. Along with geolocation, we tag things via topics. Topics will range from industry sectors to regions, as well as the ongoing stories happening right now. I know we have some folks in the state and local gov joining today, so I thought you might be interested in just diving a little bit into how we cover tornadoes. Tornadoes are notoriously difficult to cover. They spring up very quickly and create lots of damage in a matter of minutes. So we're not just covering National Weather Service advisories, but we're also covering the longer form impacts of the tornado. So the disaster relief portion of it, the travel disruption, and so forth. Next, I want to dive into a type of topic that we follow, and this is very popular with our supply chain use case. So maritime incidents are a topic tag that we have that's associated with all maritime incidents. And you can see here the breadth of maritime incidents range from everything from Taiwan to the Middle East to the US, anything related to maritime. Now this could be a bit too much for you, and maybe it's not a region that you don't cover the globe for this, but you're interested in a particular region. You can create a topic set by combining a region together, and then you can just look at maritime incidents that are associated with one particular region. So I just combined maritime incidents in Europe, and this will just be related to Europe. If I want to follow that, I can follow it, and then it will then populate in my feed as these blue alerts. Lastly, I just want to talk about our editorial coverage and how you can interact with our team. So if you would like to ask about any incidents that are ongoing that maybe haven't been mentioned yet in Factal, or have some questions around them, maybe you're hearing something on the ground from local reports, you can ask the Factal team 24/7. This is open to all of our members. You're anonymous by default, and this is extremely popular. And you're seeing stuff from just this morning, quite a bit of questions coming in, and our editorial team getting back with coverage. Many times they're just linking back to Factal source because maybe someone just missed it on the Factal platform, but they're also there to help dive into incidents further. Lastly, I would just like to show how we're utilizing AI to generate some reports. So you can generate catch me up reports and summaries utilizing the Factal data. And you can look back as many days as you'd like here, and you can generate a report that's just utilizing Factal data. So you can use this for any topic or region to update you on the things that have been happening in that area to generate a quick report and summary. And again, it's just using Factal data, so the accuracy is quite high. It is AI, so you still want to verify it. And then lastly, we have insights. You can look into insights into different types of incidents and understand how we're reporting on those as well. So it's a good historical look back tool as well. So now I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand it over to Paul, who is going to talk a bit more and show on the VertiGIS platform how you can utilize Factal's data in conjunction with other types of data to create a more holistic picture to serve the purpose of supply chain risk management.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, Factal offers a great platform to stay up to date with current events and offers a suite of tools to really be able to view that data and understand the data. What I'm going to be showing you today is, as Brian mentioned, sort of how you can take that great data that Factal offers and place it into a web mapping application that you can use to create an end-to-end risk management solution. So really the three areas we'll be looking at today are risk analysis, so understanding the risk before we take action. Mitigation, so through that analysis that we perform, we can take steps to mitigate the effects of that risk that might be going on, or that incident, type of incident that might be going on. And then the response, so if an event or an incident does happen, ensuring the right people are notified in a timely manner and appropriate action can be taken. So really trying to focus on the end-to-end full breadth of the scenario here and the solution. So here we are looking at a VertiGIS Studio application here, and really what VertiGIS Studio offers is a place where you can configure tools and visualizations to better understand and utilize your data in a more effective way. So today we'll be looking at an example of how natural risks, so weather, earthquakes, floods, fires, that sort of stuff, can affect supply chains, and but the application itself could be configured for any number of things. This is an example today, but it could be configured for every other kind of potential risk categories as well, political risks, etc. So here we are in this application here. I've got some data on the map, and the two key areas of data are the notifications, which is essentially the incidents that we've integrated with Factal. So that's the Factal data now plotted on the map here in our application. And those are incidents like a fire, a flood, so any incident that we're getting, and it's feeding into our application here on the map. And then the circles are suppliers, and they're symbolized, or they're the color coding by a risk value, a risk identifier, and that risk value is calculated based on a natural risk calculation that we do. So red is going to be a higher risk due to higher incident count in that area. So lots of fires in that area, lots of risk for lightning strikes, earthquakes, things like that. So the higher the value, the higher the risk of that location for that supply. So let's look at an example here. I'm going to zoom in into this location here in Idaho. I'm going to select this supply chain location. I'm just going to show you some information that this location shows. So on the left-hand side, we've got the risk values that are associated with it. So this one is actually quite low. It's a low value. It's a green color. So the value is around in that range, and we can see the value here is 4 based on these risks that we've collected from the risk data. So you can see we've got some seismic activity in this area is a higher risk, not too high, but it is higher in this area, and as well as lightning. So let's turn on those layers and just kind of see what it looks like on a map. So if I choose the seismic area, you can see it's in yellow, not serious. We're not in red zones here, but we're in the kind of the yellow zone, kind of medium risk to this location. As well as you can look at the lightning layer as well. So we've got some layers, some values coming in here. So this was kind of low, more green, but you can see the data coming in. The orange is more severe, things like that. So you can visualize with the data that you see on the map what we're seeing in the results. Back to the supply feature itself, just for some more information about the region. So nice little data points like the hourly temperature, so some weather information here, precipitation, cumulative precipitation over a period of time. So some good information here. This is not limited to this. You could bring in all sorts of different data into the feature data here, but these are a few examples that you can bring in. One thing that what we'll see here is if there is an incident, in this case we call them notifications, you can give it whatever name you'd like, but essentially if there is a, in this case, a Factal incident that's happening or that affects this feature, so this supply chain here location, it will be automatically related to that feature, and we'll be able to find more information about that incident. So in this case, there's a fire near this location. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Near this location here that might affect the supply chain location. So I select that risk. Now I can see more information about that, and I can actually click into Factal directly and view information about that. So this is the same system that Brian was showing us. We can find more information on what's going on due to this. Looks like it's a wildfire happening that might affect it. So that's what we're seeing here on the maps. Now what we're going to do is walk through a kind of a scenario here. So moving into more of the analysis, right? So if we wanted to, we've got the scenario here is we've got a tender for a new supply chain location, and what we want to do is really understand the risk of that location that we want to select, and then understand what risk might be involved, and then maybe make start some plans on to how to mitigate that risk, right? So I'm going to use a bookmark here to zoom right into New Orleans here. And what I'm going to do is kind of scroll in. I'm going to pick a location here, and I'm going to use a tool that we've configured inside VertiGIS Studio to create a new supply location. So it'll bring up a little map for us. You can see it automatically brings up a little slider bar, and this really shows us on the left-hand side is a Google imagery, and on the right here is actually Esri imagery. So this really gives you just a different look. Maybe it could be different timelines. Various things could be placed in the slider here, but just gives you a different look at the certain location here. So I'm going to just kind of collapse this a little bit and scroll into a location. Let's choose this location here. And I'm going to select a point on the map. I could enter information if I knew the exact address. I could enter that in here, but I'm going to select the location here for the sake of time. And what I can do is just simply reverse geocode this location, and it will automatically fill in my data. So we're doing a reverse geocode, meaning basically an address lookup at my location, and then I'm going to simply just select the country here. So I've got my location for my new supply area. I could enter in some comments, some other information if I'd like. Next step here is some risk information. So if I already knew some risk related information, violence is going on, war type of information is happening here, I could enter it here. Next, I can now enter information about the supplier here. So I'm just going to give it a supply ID. I'll give it a type as an active supplier, supplier 1, 2, 3. Give it a division. Let's say it's powertrain is the example here. I'm just giving it some values here to fill in the information, and we can continue there. So we're going to save that. So now I've got a new supply location. Now I'm going to see those risk values come in, and really what it's doing is connecting automatically through that risk data that's integrated into the application, and now I've got a new set of risk data that I can view. So since we know it's in New Orleans, we can imagine the risks that might be going on here: storm surge, floods. I'm sure you're expected that, I guess, but we can see that on the map as well. So let's look at storm surge here first, and you can see as it comes in, that data comes in here shortly. We're going to look at, let's look at the global flood zone here. Okay, we're going to change it to topographic here, and we'll give it another go. Here we go. So I just didn't enable it properly. Actually, that was my fault. So we can see that the global flood zone, as expected, pretty high in the area I selected here in New Orleans. And you can see in the storm surge as well, you're going to see the similar thing, right, where you've got the high surge area all along the coast here. So as you might expect, but it's interesting to know, obviously. If I select this location, I'm going to make sure that I understand the risks of that location. So now that I have a new location, what I want to do is, if there is an incident that happens, how can I be notified that something's going on? And maybe as an administrator of this application, I can actually notify the supply location, the contact on site, to say, hey, there's an incident going on. Here's the situation. The data's coming in from Factal. We've got this situation going on. Here's what's going on. Take steps immediately to sort of mitigate that situation. So what we want to do is subscribe essentially to this location, so that I'm signed up for alerts at the supply location. So I'm going to enter my information. That just did a lookup to my organizational data. I've got a list of all my current subscriptions. I'm going to create a new one. And I'm going to enter in that supplier 1, 2, 3. I'm going to enter my information here first. And then I think it was supplier 1233, I think I selected. So now I will be subscribed for any notifications that come in for that. So if there's, again, a flood, let's say a flood happens, information comes in from Factil, a notification comes in, I will be immediately alerted of that incident. So let's say there is an incident at a location. What it will do is send an alert to the contact, and this is an example of what the alert might look like. In this case, this is an alert that's happening in Norway at a location. Looks like it's a fire that's occurring near a supplier that I've subscribed to, essentially, right? So I'm actually going to use this link to pop open the application, and it will automatically zoom me into that location at that specific supplier. And you can see it kind of gives you the notification ID, and it will zoom in right into that location. So we've got our fire at this location here, and so we've got the affected supplier. Let's have a look at, since I clicked on the incident, let's have a look at Factil. We can see that there is a industrial building that looks to be on fire at this location. And so what we can do is then look at the supplier that's affected. And so this is where we're then the reaction, the response, right? And so there's a fire that's occurred. I've got the notification. I can now go to the supplier location and notify the contact on site to say there's a fire in the region, maybe an adjacent building, an industrial building that's on fire. Take immediate steps to sort of avoid that situation or to mitigate that situation. Okay, so lastly, or I guess second lastly, I'm going to zoom in into a location in Dresden while I'm in the area in Europe here. And I'm going to actually zoom in and kind of outline a scenario with 3D data, how 3D data could be utilized when looking at data on the map. So I'm going to switch to 3D view here. And this is the city of Dresden in Germany here. And so we've got a supplier, and the 3D data is just kind of rolling in here now. I'm going to modify the map here a little bit. So we've got 3D data. We've got our supplier here at this location, and we've got a river. And immediately we've got some information about how a flood might affect the area, and we can see that here through our flood data. So right now we have the flood data set to 924 centimeters. So if a flood were to occur at this area, this is what the effects would be. So let's say if we increase that flood amount up to 1,000 centimeters, 1,050 centimeters, you can see that the flood affects more of the region and really get a really strong idea of how that if the water level was to be raised that high, you'd be able to see that quite visually on the map. You can even take it a step further and use what we call a profile tool. And this allows you to really see almost like a cross section of the area. And so if I just draw a line, let's say right through the supply area, you can see that on the left here is my river. And you can see as I scroll along the line, it's hard to show two things at once, but you can see the dot roll along the line there. So this is the river area here. This is the building. And then right around here would be my supplier. So you can see that the water level was to rise. This is the ground level here, the orange line. It would be quite high at my building, right? So it would be quite disastrous. So it's a good little visual to see the exact effects of a flood in an area. Okay, I'm gonna back out a little bit and just show you one last thing here. I'm gonna get out of 3D view. And again, if I was an administrator and I really wanted to kind of get an idea of what was going on in the world, I wanted to know what the activity was going on in the world, I could use a filter, something like this, to view incidents over a period of time and filter it by the type of incident and even the severity of the incident. So a tool like this could be built to view that. So I'm going to leave it at last 2 months. I'm going to deselect all and just choose fire. It'll leave severity at 100, and we'll just apply it here. So what this does is just filters the map, gives me all those fire incidents here, and gives me a sort of a table that I can view all of those incidents, zoom in on them, look at the Factil information for each, that sort of thing. What I can also do with this data is export it into a CSV, into an Excel file, PDF report. You can take that data with you. So just a few examples there of being able to look at analyze the data, take steps to mitigate the effects of an incident that's going on, and even take steps to respond to an incident that might be going on. All right, Vince, I think it's over to you.
Thank you, Paul. That was an excellent demonstration of some applications that we built to manage risk for many large clients. But I want to let you know that this pattern can really be extended, and Paul alluded to this, to any risk management use cases. The key is really to have the data that you need presented in the way that's most intuitive to you in order to make that efficient analysis, and then finally turn that analysis into action. So what's possible? Well, for example, when we're looking at the map and we're locating, what if when you located those risks, you didn't see just what they were on the map, but also what the scope of what they threatened in terms of supply lines? So for example, you wouldn't just see a forest fire, but you'd see what the threatened highways were. And furthermore, those highways would be coded according to how much the visibility was being reduced from smoke. And then there's the idea of enriching the data. So we've talked about how you can make visible the data that's important to your business operations. So what's the total number of scheduled shipments that are going to be occurring along that highway where there might be a visibility concern? What's the weather forecast for the next few days? And then comes the analysis itself. So the analysis is where you determine the true extent and impact of the risks. So a flood that's affecting one location upstream might be soon to affect locations downstream. Or the fire is affecting that road, that highway, but you actually have no shipments along that road for the next couple days, and there's rain forecast tomorrow. Or maybe you do have shipments along that highway and you need to find some alternatives. Can you use a different supplier? Can you find an alternate highway for the shipments to be shipped along? What are either going to cost you? You can integrate the financial data. How much would a delay cost if you decided to delay shipment? So should you delay or ship via an alternate? And then finally, that ability to act. So you have the analysis that you want to do because you have the proper data that affects your business operations, and now you can act. And Paul demonstrated some of that. So you can send an email to suppliers to hold shipments or to advise them to use an alternate route. You can trigger ERP processes. So you can update or create activities that already exist in your ERP, like informing clients of shipping delays. We're able to integrate your ERP with our geo-enabled applications. You can generate a report to a supplier that includes information about the risk, or one to your boss that captures the information that you use to make that decision. And the beauty of this is that all of this can be done from just one place. An integrated risk management solution enables you to bring all of the data and visualizations you need into a single place, and then allows you to act on it immediately. And that creates a true solution. The underpinning of all this is VertiGIS Studio, which expedites the creation of integrated geo-enabled applications. All of the use cases I described in the previous slide are possible using our flexible, configurable product suite. At VertiGIS, we've been doing this for over 20 years. VertiGIS Studio has a proven track record of enabling clients to integrate their ERP, CRM, document management systems, and work order management systems into geo-enabled applications. So let's just summarize the value of the integrated solution. Factal is an industry-respected provider of validated risk data. Their platform is global and serves the need of major clients worldwide. VertiGIS is the go-to platform for providing integrated geo-enabled solutions. Together, Factal and VertiGIS enable you to truly understand the scope and impact of risks and act on those decisions immediately. If you're ready to learn more, please use the attached QR code to direct yourself to our website. We hope that you found today's webinar interesting and compelling. I'd like to thank you for joining us, and I'd like to thank today's other presenters. We do have a few minutes to address questions, so by all means, put them in the chat if you haven't done so already.
Let's just see if there's any questions. I know we have a couple that have been sent to us, and these are common questions we get. I'll pose it to the panel here, and if anyone would like to answer. one of the questions was, how long would it take a solution like this to be deployed? So maybe I can go to you, Vince, regarding that.
Of course, it depends on the degree of integration that's needed with other systems. But for an integration to, say, a single system, like a work order management system, it might not take more than a few weeks to a month. If you want to integrate it completely with an ERP system, it could take longer. But generally, because VertiGIS Studio is designed for integration with third-party systems, that kind of development is going to take place much more quickly than it would if you were using other platforms.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's important to say. We listed a number of ERP systems, et cetera, that we've already built APIs or connectors to. Laserfish, there could be others that you want to integrate to, but there's no limit to that. It also could be risk data. So a lot of customers and companies use LexisNexis, for example, to do supplier risk assessments and data. Can we actually sell to this company or do work with them or actually have them as a supplier? Those could be other tools that you want to integrate to. Risk management, risk assessments, overall risk is just a massive industry. So not just supply chain. Brian had mentioned cyber and some of these other risks that you may be looking at. Incident data, tracking from Factal being one intake, but it could be many other data points or systems that you want to integrate to. So just another question here, is this solution only for supply chain risk management? I talked about that a little bit. We can go to the panel here, but no, there could be any other areas other than supply chain. We tried to focus on that today, obviously very current and topical, but if there's other areas that you're worried about risk, want to do risk assessments, actionable intelligence based on the data that you're getting, you could use that for any number of areas within the risk spectrum. So it's not just for supply chain. I have one other one as well. Can I leave my data where it is? Does VertiGIS require a copy of our data? Maybe I can go to you, Paul, on that.
Sure. No, your data doesn't need to be copied or anything else for it to work in VertiGIS. We simply reference the data where it is, and that could be a variety of ways to do that. It could be through Esri's map services and feature services. It could also be through various integrations. So we talked about the Factal integration today, either linking out or populating the map through a Factal integration on the backend database. It could be web requests or API connections to separate data, third-party systems. Really, VertiGIS Studio is kind of the glue. That we always say that's the glue that kind of holds things together, and you get the visualization and you get the integration with the other systems to get the full understanding of the environment and what steps you need to take to complete various business tasks that you have.
Perfect. Thanks, Paul. So I don't see any other questions. Feel free. You can post them, even if you send them after the fact. We're going to follow up with any individuals that send in questions. For existing customers, again, this is Studio, right? The only other thing we've shown is the Factal application and tool, but this is your core Studio application. So if you're an existing customer, you can expand this to risk. And if you're new, we're happy to follow up in a detailed demo. Someone like Paul or from his team and your account manager or partner manager can take you through this. But this is a new way to use Studio. And we actually already have a number of auto manufacturers in Europe using this tool and a lot of interest, obviously, with what's going on in our world today. I don't see any other questions, but what I did want to do is obviously thank the panel, thank Brian from Factal, Vince, and Paul. And thank everyone for joining today. We appreciate you spending some time with us around supply chain risk management within Studio and Factal. And we look forward to our next webinar. Again, we'll follow up with everyone that registered and attended today. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to anyone from the VertiGIS team. And obviously, both organizations will follow up with all the registrants and attendees today. So thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time today, and have a great week.
Thanks all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.